Hey, what's up, Street Gods? It's Eric from the Eric Street Art blog. So, I wanted to talk with you on this notion of fame and how to become more famous and whether this is a good thing or not. So first and foremost, contrary to popular belief or what we've been taught by modern philosophy, whatever, I actually think that fame is a good thing because, assuming you have good intentions, the more famous you are, the more power and influence you have, and therefore the more people you could help. It's very simple. And obviously I cannot speak for you because you have different motives and desires and ideas than I do, but let me just kind of speak what I think. So I think one of the best feelings, I think, is the feeling of power, the feeling that you have a voice, the feeling that you have influence, and the idea that you could use your position, you could use your platform, and you could use your voice to impact and change and help others. And now, I don't think it should be the goal of everybody on planet Earth to help other people. Like, this is generally Christian morality. And, I'm a practicing Catholic, and I believe in my best friend, Jesus Christ, and his followings. And so for me, I want to be able to maximize my impact in the world and to maximize the number of people I help, or to maybe maximize the profundity or the deepness of how I can impact these individuals. And for me, I don't really measure my success or my fame or whatever by, whether I have 1 trillion followers or not. Of course, I would love to be like Justin Bieber famous, if it were possible. Who knows? Maybe one day it could happen. But I think fame is interesting because it's kind of this strange notion in modern society. I think maybe let's kind of unravel this by taking a step backwards into time. My favorite time, the ancient Greeks. So during ancient Greek times, and I'm just going to use, and this is not like really historical, I'm just going to use Greek ideals in Homer's Iliad and the Odyssey. Generally speaking, all these warriors, they're only hungry for one thing, which was dying a glorious death, showing bravery and courage, and building the fame of their name for future generations to remember them. And for the most thing, it's been pretty effective. Like, we remember Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, we remember King Leonidas and the Spartan 300, which is kind of insane. That was like a real thing. Also, we remember, and these aren't really as real, but then you remember, or let's talk about real people. We think about Hannibal, we think about all these great military minds, Napoleon, etc. And now, obviously, in today's modern society, assuming you're not in the military, our lives aren't really that directly affected by being like a warrior, right? So most of us, unfortunately, are stuck in kind of office jobs, and most of our lives are actually pretty boring and not scary, not thrilling, not adventurous, whatever. And I think that's why we have such a modern obsession with sports. It's like the closest thing we have to like warfare, where nobody gets killed. Similarly, this is why I think UFC is really popular, is people like to see each other fight and get bloody, whatever. And a lot of us tend to live vicariously through these athletes and through these people who literally have their skin and their blood in the game. And the only way to become more famous is to become more notorious. Now, it's also interesting is that the notion of being notorious is kind of seen as a negative thing, is that generally gangsters are notorious or people with bad reputations are notorious. However, if you think the actual etymology of the word notorious, it goes from like noted or notice, or essentially it comes down to name. So when you are more notorious, essentially just means that more people know your name. And I think this is a good thing, because I think one of the most valuable possessions you have in your life is just your name. Your name is a badge of your honor. Your name is a badge of respect. Your name is a reflection of who you are, your morals, your values, what you created, what you've done. And obviously, like, after we're dead, we cannot benefit from our notoriety, nor will we know how long we will be noted for. And it doesn't matter really how famous or noted you are, sooner or later, you're going to be forgotten, which is, I think, is totally fine. It's part of the whole part of humanity. In fact, it would actually be a bad thing if there are certain individuals who are remembered forever. Then it means that society couldn't advance forward, because we sometimes need to forget these individuals in order for people to create and innovate new things. However, I think the useful thing why it's useful to have noted individuals, heroes in society, is that they're just kind of good role models, in the sense that they show us what human ambition is capable of, and therefore we people living today can emulate some of these heroes and aspire to human greatness. And I really do believe in human greatness. I believe in the infinite potential, the human spirit, the human mind, our capability. And so essentially what I want to help do in terms of my personal life mission is to help augment all of humanity, whether present living or the future. So obviously here, fame is a good thing. And now, certainly I'm not the richest guy. I'm not the most, I'm certainly not the richest guy around, but I think I actually do genuinely, if I had an option of being really rich and unknown, or to be like poor but be really famous, I would actually probably prefer to be poor and famous, because then when you're poor and famous, you could actually have influence over rich people or anybody else, because I think in modern times, fame is the ultimate power. Is that, at least in America, I can't speak for other countries, America, we freaking worship famous people like demigods. It's true. And I think the reason why fame gets a bad rap is that I think a lot of people who become super famous, they don't have the mental fortitude or the strength to control their fame. It ends up having very self-destructive consequences. So you think about all these great famous people in history, a lot of them unfortunately have died of like heroin overdoses and stuff like that, because I think it's not that fame got to their head or whatever. The issue is just that unfortunately, for one reason or another, they just didn't have the mental strength to handle all of it. So I think this is my theory. If you're wise enough, and if you have enough willpower, and you have enough strength, if you're able to yield your fame in a positive way, I think that's great. Like, so for example, one person I really admire is Angelina Jolie. She has leveraged her personal fame in order to spread humanitarian causes, which I think is awesome. She's like almost like the modern day Mother Teresa. I don't know if this is like politically okay for me to say. I'll say it anyways. She's like the modern day Mother Teresa, but way hotter. Right? This is pretty bad, but I'm gonna roll with it. Okay, so a lot of people in history who have made a big impact, like Gandhi, obviously very famous, but insanely poor. And I think it's important, is that, like, I mean, fame is kind of muddled with all these like moral judgments of like, famous people are bad people or whatever like that. And also there's a lot of resentment of non-famous people towards famous people, because to be frank, everyone wishes that they're famous. And a lot of the times that people are trying to burn famous people by the stake, the reason they're trying to do that is that because they feel secret hidden resentment towards famous people, and they wish that they're famous. And now, being famous, obviously you have a lot more money and stuff like that, but I think really the biggest impact of fame, I mean, I think the money thing is a little bit overrated, to be honest, because like, let's say you have like 20 pink Lambos or whatever it may be, right? I mean, sooner or later you're gonna get bored of that. Let's say you live in a big fancy house, you get bored of that too. Let's say you have all the Gucci and Versace that you could wear. That's kind of a little bit overrated. And let's say you have 8 arms and you have like 50 Rolex watches. It's like, that gets boring too. But what's more interesting is being able to put out your artwork, have people notice, be impacted and influenced by it. And I think most of us human beings, we are happiest when we see that we're making an impact on others, which means it doesn't even necessarily have to be a good impact or a bad impact. It's like just to see that we're influencing people or impacting people, I think brings us joy. So I think this is why it's kind of fun for me to speak to strangers, is that it gives me a chance for me to practice my social skills. And I just kind of have a delight in seeing me influence or impact a person just purely through my interactions with them. And perhaps this is what why comedians like to do what they do too, because they get a lot of joy from influencing and impacting others. Now, this is a question that I don't really know the answer to, but is it possible to live a happy, empowered life without interacting with other humans? My gut instinct is no, because no matter, like, let's say you're the ultimate Zen monk, meditating in some mountain somewhere in a cave. Eventually, you're going to want to escape your cave and interact with other humans and share with them your wisdom. I think actually probably an interesting story to think about is Thus Spoke Zarathustra. It's one of Nietzsche's fictional novels. It's interesting. It's a philosopher who goes into the mountains for 10 years, becomes insanely wise, and he's like, oh, I'm like a bee overwrought with honey. I want to go out to humanity to share my honey. And it's a very simple idea. It's like, what Jesus says, if you have a candle, you want to share your light with the world. You don't want to just hide it under a bushel or something, right? So if you have a light, you want to let it shine, because not all of us, but at least for myself, when I've gotten an idea or concept or thing that empowers me, I'm like, I just love all humanity. I want to share this dopeness with as many people as I can. And obviously it's not going to help everybody. And there's a lot of people who actually it might maybe perhaps harm. But to me, even a 1% chance that what I have could help benefit other people, to me it's a good drive. It's that like, I want to help other people. And where do I get this drive to want to help other people? I mean, I can't say for certain, but definitely when I was younger, growing up poor, there's so many people who helped me, my mom. I think about like all my teachers, my mentors, my coaches, the leaders in like my Boy Scouts troop. By the way, I am actually an Eagle Scout. A Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent too. So Eric Kim, the Eagle Scout, I couldn't have gone to where I was without the help from the U.S. government through scholarships and grants. I went to UCLA with lots of scholarships, and I got federal grants and work study loans and stuff like that. And all of my teachers, obviously my mom. So I think anyone who says that, oh, I became successful 100% on my own, I think is speaking BS, because there are so many hands along the way who helped you, empower you to get where you are. Even I think to be grateful for is that the fact that you were born, even the DNA from your great ancestors, that's something really, which is really lovely to be grateful for. So I'm very grateful of my blessings and the gifts that have been bestowed upon me, and therefore I feel like it's my duty to give back. I remember what it was like growing up poor and kind of lack of resources and knowledge and tools. And now, so I feel like it's my duty now to share this information or these ideas as widely as possible, because I remember what it likes to be like being a small guy. And once again, this is just like my personal opinions. This is probably not going to apply to you. But anyways, so for me, the more famous I become, I've been actually able to impact and influence the culture. So for example, in photography, it was like, man, the photography was like when I entered the game, it was like 2009 when I started taking photography really seriously. I was like, actually, no, I really started photography seriously in 2006 when I graduated high school. I was like 18 years old, and I was like, all this fucking like, oh, you need a full frame DSLR to be serious. You need these Canon L lenses. And there's so much obsession with gear, sharpness, and all this silliness. And once I became more famous through my blog, I was able to say things which I truly believed in, which I actually thought was really empowering. I'm like, no, like, fuck image quality. Image quality is overrated. Sharpness is overrated. RAW is overrated. I prefer shooting JPEG. Fancy cameras are overrated. I like shooting with like a $500 Ricoh GR2. Now the new XF10. And also kind of disassociating like happiness with like social media numbers. Like for for probably one of the things that the boldest thing I've done in recent history, which I'm actually really proud of, is probably just deleting my Instagram. I had like 60,000 followers, and actually I probably did take a personal hit and lose some power and influence by deleting my Instagram. But all things considered, to me, it was very meaningful because it was able to encourage more people to do the same and not be slaves to Facebook, which actually owns Instagram, and not to quantify your self-esteem by the number of others, or not to crowdsource your self-esteem, as my best friend Kanye says. And the more impact and influence you have, you could say things which are contrary to the popular ideology. You could shift the culture, which is amazing because you as one individual, you could change the whole culture. Not only that, you could create your own new culture. So like, even like this notion of like street dogs. I mean, I kind of treat it like we have like, there's like a little mini culture, something like that. There's like, we have certain ideals, like, we don't really care so much for the gear. We love to travel. We like to take risks. We're very open. We like to share with each other and stuff like that. And obviously these are just like, it's just kind of a reflection of my personal ideals. Like I like open source information and knowledge. Sharing is caring, blah, 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 blah. And so I really want to help empower all of us to be more brave, to be more confident, and to be more audacious and to take more risks. And now, if I wasn't a famous, influential person, none of this would be possible. And, I think this is actually the funny thing is that like, I think generally speaking, when people think like whether you're famous or not is like whether you've been recognized in public by a random stranger. This happened to me a bunch of times. And it's kind of one of those things that like, it's kind of humbling and kind of nice, but it's certainly not something that makes you like happy. It's not like, oh, I've been spotted. I'm so happy that they recognize me. It's just kind of like one of those, oh, that's kind of cool. That's kind of fun, but it's certainly not being recognized in public, which drives you forward. Nor is it really being able to go somewhere and be treated really nicely too. Because like, for example, nowadays, if I'll go to like some Leica stores or photo stores and people know who I am, obviously they treat me nicely and stuff like that and give me certain privileges or advantages. I mean, like, that's nice too, but that's not like super necessary either. Sometimes I actually like to just be left alone is, to me, maybe perhaps it's a downside of like extreme fame. Because I'm lucky enough that like, I'm famous within a very tiny niche, which is like photography, street photography, the internet. But I'm not like, Brad Pitt famous where I can't just go in public without being spotted by paparazzi or anything. Because like, imagine, let's say you were like insane. Let's say you're like, Kim Kardashian famous. I can't just go to the gym and just do deadlifts without having people just mob me. So once again, I think, when I'm speaking of fame, obviously, I can't really speak for like hyper top upper echelon of celebrities fame. I think if you're watching this, like even if you're the most famous YouTuber, there's still kind of like an upper limit to your fame. I think the really, 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 really famous people who can't like live quote unquote normal lives anymore is probably like Hollywood famous people, like my best friend Brad Pitt and stuff like that. But anyways, going back to the topic in hand. I would actually say by every mean, try to become as famous as you can. I think, I think the thing that's holding most people back is that there's somehow some sort of moralistic evil with being famous. Like, oh, all you're hungry for is fame. You only care about fame. You're a fame whore. You're a fame, blah, blah, fame, slut or whatever. And it's like, no, like why is fame a bad thing? And I think, once again, fame is good. I mean, it's just kind of like anything in life is nothing is intrinsically good or bad in itself. It's just how do you yield it? Like you think about fire. Fire, if you use fire to burn somebody alive, obviously like probably not a good thing, right? But if you use fire to cook your food, good thing. You got a hammer, build a house for somebody, good. Use a hammer to kill somebody, not a good thing. So think about in life, anything could be used for good or bad purposes, and also this notion of good and evil is also totally subjective as well. But I would just encourage you to strive to become more famous, strive yourself to become more empowered, to have more influence. Very practical ways to become more famous: start your own website or blog. I recommend using bluehost.com and installing wordpress.org. always, whenever possible, use your first and last name whenever registering anything, because your name is what you want to become more notorious, right? Furthermore, start your own YouTube channel. And then this is actually something that's a little bit confusing. The way to start a YouTube channel is this. If you have a Google account and you're logged into YouTube, you already have a YouTube channel technically. You just start, in the top right corner, you could there's that little upload video. You can start uploading videos on any sort of topics you can. And I think the way it works is that once you gain 1,000 subscribers or some arbitrary number, then you could actually claim your channel and then name it. So it's like youtube.com/EricKimPhotography or whatever you decide to name it. And so I guess maybe a simple goal is to try to hit your first 1,000 subscribers. I can't really say, how do you get more subscribers? This is just like my practical tip. And this is just pure honesty. I have never intentionally ever looked at my subscriber numbers. I just kind of accidentally glance at it when it's there. But generally speaking, to an extent, you can't really control whether people subscribe to you or not. I've never told people in my videos to subscribe to me or whatever like that. It's just generally just put out information, put out substantive videos that you feel like are interesting or entertaining, are empowering, are unique, and anything, and just keep making. I don't even know how many videos I have. I probably have over 1,000 videos, and it's great too because YouTube it's free, right? You just upload all your stuff there. Generally speaking, the easiest way to get more discovered on YouTube is generally talk about topics which are pretty interesting. Also, when you're writing titles on your YouTube videos, don't worry about the tags. I almost never put in tags. The more important is the title is make a title of the video that you would personally click on. Simple. And this notion of clickbait, it's totally a nonsensical concept. Just don't worry. Don't banish this notion of clickbait from your mind. Just make a title that's catchy that you would be interested in. Generally, if you want to get more people to come to you, talk about topics you're interested in, talk about tips and stuff like that. But once again, I'm gonna try to think more about how to get more subscribers on YouTube because I'm not really the expert on that. And I have a modest following on YouTube, but I'm certainly I don't have 1 trillion followers. Or I'm not like Justin Bieber status yet, right? I think maybe the best person to study is actually probably one of the photographer YouTubers I admire the most is probably Kaiman Wong. I think with him and Digital Rev, they're able to break the first photo channel to break 1 million subscribers. And honestly, I think what people loved about Digital Rev with Kaiman Wong, Locke, and Lambie is that they were just themselves. Even Kaiman Wong, he's to me the greatest YouTuber of all time, photography YouTuber of all time, because he's just kind of fun. He's himself. He's kind of like the Jeremy Clarkson of the photo world. He's kind of fun. He's kind of irreverent. He uses his British humor in a good way. He's entertaining. He's got a good voice too. That's something you can't really control, right? But yeah, so maybe just study some more Kai videos or YouTube videos. Don't be afraid of being controversial. If anything, the more controversial you are, the better. To make it more entertaining, obviously throw in random stuff. Even watching my video with Kai where we're both dressed, he was dressed up as Elvis, I think, and I was dressed up as a pirate. Just search Analog Rev, Eric Kim, Kaiman Wong. It's actually a pretty good video. I think that video has almost maybe 500,000 views. It's kind of insane. But anyways, with producing videos, don't worry too much about having fancy equipment. Just use the simplest equipment possible. If you just want a simple vlogging setup, I really like the Lumix G9 and just get a Rode video mic to it and just whatever lens. And yeah, or just use your webcam, use your phone. GoPro is good too. Just get a cheap GoPro. Most of my early videos that I got were on GoPro, and yeah, just talk about a subject you like. And obviously, starting a blog is a good thing. Whenever you do your videos, I don't know, this worked for me, but I always say, "Hey, what's up, Street Talks? Eric Kim from the Eric Kim Street Photography blog." So people get to cement my name. It's actually kind of funny. I've had so many people just kind of imitate me. Even my buddy Charlie Kirk is like, hey, street dogs, what's up? This is kind of funny. Like once people start to imitate you and make fun of you, I think it's a good sign, right? So just don't take it too seriously. Have fun with it. And remember our motto, fame is good. Peace out.